But in a situation where you find that a party look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back. Yes, it's still Daybreak on Trust TV in case you're just tuning in. And right now it's time for the newspaper review. Let's find out what the headlines are saying today. And we have our reviewer in the studio with us as well, editor 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdullah, joining us in the studio. Good morning and
Good morning,
welcome to the studio again.
Thank you for joining.
Nice to have you join us, yes. And today we will start by taking headlines from a Daily Trust newspaper, and we have the lead story that actually talks about APC, as PDP inaugurates a zoning panel, north-south in epic battle over presidential tickets. Yes, and we have writers that say Wike fueling agitation for Southern presidency will reach out to other aspirants. Saraki Tamwal and Mohammed say IU urges aspirants to accept zoning committee's decision, and open contest best option. If you come to the bottom below that particular story, you'd find a story that talks about fresh controversy over new Lagos airport terminal on page 7. Nigerian Army commences selection process of short service. We are confused by court's order on Ebonyi governor's defection, says INEC. And then you'd see a pictorial of a founder and pro-chancellor of Bayes University, Senator Detti Baba Ahmed, in a warm handshake with National Organizing Secretary of PDP, Honorable Umar Bature, after buying his nomination and intent forms for governorship of Kaduna State yesterday. All right, on the footnote there, we have how troops destroyed 49 illegal refineries in Delta. If you come to the top there, there's a story that says, I'm not aware of consensus. President should campaign for his candidate, says Fayemi. And you can find details of that story on page 4. And also, Buhari hosts Tinubu, Akande, Amechi, others to dinner. And details of that story on page 40. Now, yes, let's take it to our reviewer now. Let's start with the lead story. Now, previously, it was the APC that had a lot of internal wrangling, and now we're seeing one, in PDP, and, talking about the epic battle between, over presidential ticket between the North and the South. They're not definitely following the zoning formula, and this is why there's this particular battle going on.
Yes, and maybe the problem in the zoning issue in PDP is becoming because PDP is ahead of the APC. PDP have done its convention, I think maybe a month or more than 2 months ago.
January.
But APC is still battling to hold its own convention. We hope that it will hold tomorrow, so that we will put it behind us and move to the next level, which is the zoning problem. PDP has a zoning formula in its constitution, even though over the years it was not strictly adhered to. We cited instances. Yes, Eradua was president in 2007. He died 2 years later, and he was succeeded by his deputy, Goodluck Jonathan. But when Jonathan completed Eradua's tenure into 2011, there was the same problem. I remember we covered the event at the Data Plaza. Some people are saying that since Obasanjo has done 8 years, it is now the turn of the North to do another 8 years. And Eradua was elected, and unfortunately he died. Jonathan naturally will complete his tenure because it was a joint ticket. But Jonathan said, no, I can't be disenfranchised because of a zoning principle that is in our constitution. Besides, the PDP constitution is not supreme. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is supreme, and he has given him all the rights to contest, particularly as the first occupant. You know, pro-Jonathan people at that time brought so many instances. They cited the case of the United States. A sitting president in the United States is given the right of first refusal. You understand? Biden will go for a second term. He will still fly the Democratic ticket if his first tenure expires, unless he decides to stay back. So you know all that. So the zoning principle in 2011 was not adhered to, was violated, and Jonathan was elected as president. You understand? So that was it. So going forward now, and PDP, like one of the governors who is a presidential hopeful, say, winning the presidency is more important than talking about zoning. You can zone it wherever you want to. If you don't win, of what essence is it? So the way I look at it is, principally, if you look at the political sphere, there are only two serious major candidates. Yeah, there's Atiku in the PDP, and there's Tinubu in the APC. Yes, that is it.
But we have more people.
No, you can have people can aspire, but you know, but yeah, it's clear, you know, who has the capacity, the wherewithal to win a presidential election. Somebody cannot come from his village, and simply because he's a Nigerian, he is up to 35 years old, he will go to one party that can give him the ticket free.
But one of the agitations most of these political parties have is the fact that, you know, committees are constituted, panels are being constituted, and you know, to come up with a zoning formula, like PDP now set up a 37-member committee to come up with this zoning. And at the end of the day, the candidates or to fit in some of the zones becomes a problem. Take, for instance, now, the PDP leaders, the South, the Southwest had a meeting, and they believe that the South is supposed to be the one, you know, taking the position right now to vie for the presidential position. But that's not the case. The candidate still remains a big problem, and then declaring intention to contest for that position.
Let me give you an example. Let's assume that this 38-man panel will zone the presidency to, let's say, South-South. And you bring Wike, with all respect to His Excellency. Do you see Wike winning elections in 2023?
In elections in Nigeria, anything can happen.
What I'm saying here is that we look at the precedent. What is his popularity rating, for instance, in the Northwest, the most populous region of the country, the Northeast, some part of the North Central, in his even zone. So, PDP, you know, they have been out of power for, let me say, they will be out of power in the next 8 years.
Yes.
So, you know, they have learned. And you will know where the pendulum will swing if you look at what happened during their convention. How Dr. Yechi Ayu emerged. I see the 38-man panel throwing up the presidential tickets to 36 or 30 plus states of the country. And there will be primaries, whoever wins. I think that's the best way to go. Because you can bring a very unpopular candidate that maybe by midday he's defeated.
So you're for opening, you know, an open contest?
No, sure. And that's what they will do.
And so they're playing safe.
Of course, that's what they will do, because they can't risk it.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, now let's talk about Nigerian Army commencing a selection process for short service. Now you have a lot of young men out there who have said that they've tried to join the army, especially those who were willing to go to Ukraine back then. You know, while they while they were interviewed, they said they've tried time and time again to join the army, but it hasn't worked out for them. With this now, do we see, a lot of boost in terms of security in Nigeria?
Yes, but don't forget that this short service thing is a routine of the Nigerian Army. The Navy is doing it, the Air Force is doing it. Even just like the police, they are doing admission for their Udil police academy, kind of. So maybe if you're even talking about maybe the recruitment process of the non-commissioned officers, like we do have in the depot, if you go to Zaria, we have one, maybe in Lagos and but then coming back to your going to Ukraine thing, they're just lazy Nigerians with all respect, You don't have any military background and you want to go to Ukraine. If, for instance, you are from the Northeast, you can go to Sambisa.
But you have a lot of Ukrainians without military background, fighting for their country as well.
The Western media is one-sided. It's pro-Ukraine. So the footages we see on BBC, CNN, they're a huge joke. And Putin, from all indications, it's not a total war, all-out war. He wants to invade the country. Because even from the same footages, I don't see a Russian tank being confronted by an armless Ukrainian, and nothing happens. All this kind.
Okay, let's move away from Nigerians wanting to go ashore to fight for Ukraine when we have other pressing issues in the country. The Southern Kaduna War is still there. We can have people volunteer to go, to go face some of those bandits.
Well, Niger State was on for us.
Exactly. So let's take a look at this. Finally made a statement. He said, I'm not aware of consensus. President should campaign for his candidates. And there's been a lot of agitations prior to the APC Convention. Today is, a few hours to the conventions. We have party members who do not agree with Abdullahi Adamu and, the president having a candidate. And we're not really clear if the president actually wants Abdullahi Adamu to man that mantle of leadership. So what's your take on all of these agitations and the APC before the convention, which is just a few hours away?
I think in the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, His Excellency Fahimi, he just playing to the gallery. If he had said this on Wednesday afternoon, prior to the meeting of President Buhari with APC governors and APC chairmanship aspirants, then I would accept it. But he was talking yesterday. He talked yesterday. Almost more than 12 hours after the president met with all the 8 chairmanship aspirants for the APC. Commission stand. There has been rumors, speculations. I remember former Governor Yari overheard him in the BBC saying that if the president, there was nothing like endorsement by the presidency. In fact, he said a presidential spokesperson even refuted one of the reports. But I think to enforce his stance on the convention, the president, I think his handlers advised him, meet with the aspirants, tell them what the local parlance say, koro koro.
Kuro, kuro.
You understand? And that's why he did, even though he put the cart before the horse. He met with the APC governors. Fayemi was there. And the president clearly, in an unambiguous term, told them that I have my candidates. Abdullah Adamu is one. I think with some, with 4 others. Then, after the governors meeting, and when they came out, the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, the KB governor, Governor Bagudu, told a press conference that the president has endorsed Abdullah Adamu, and he said that the governors will work with the presidential list. He was clear about that. Hours later, we saw the president meeting Abdullah Adamu, Tanko Almakura, Abdulaziz Yari, Ali Modu Sharif, Senator Muhammad Sani 313, and Alaji Salus Mustafa, and the youngest of all of them, the youngest among them, the Muhammad Isu Idati, that guy from
the youngest among the
Izani,
aspirants.
And from what we heard, yeah, the president, what he did was, that some of them were not happy. They have spent fortune to buy the form, which is about 20 million. And, take Al-Makura Yari, they have done giant billboards across the country, crisscross the country campaigning. So they have spent fortune on that. I think minus Ali Modu Sharif, who didn't buy the form. So they were there was agitation, and they were agitated actually. And what we learned was when the president came out, we sat with them. Yes, he called them so that he tell them that they were all qualified to lead the party to these very important elections. Buhari won't be on the ballot, so nobody will use Buhari's poster, picture in his poster to, no. My aged grandmother in Kano village, for instance, say, where is Buhari? They want me Buhari to browbeat anyone now. So he said, you are all qualified to lead the party. He said, but Abdullah Adamu is the most qualified. And he is the person I have settled. And immediately after that, the president left. He said that the aspirants should continue the meeting with the SGF boss, Mustafa, and his chief of staff, Gambari.
So now, do you think that the convention is actually set or is still facing threats?
No. I think it's a settled issue. And the chairmanship is a settled matter. I think...
Why do you say the chairmanship is a settled matter? Does the statement of the president has anything to do with influencing the chances of Abdullah?
It is not even influencing the chances, because all the governors on the delegates, mind you, and from what they said, unless if maybe they will betray the president at the last minute, which is, I don't see that happening. And I'm saying this because from experience. If it were Obasanjo, it wouldn't have reached this stage. No. He will bulldoze his way. You won't even buy forms. And the president was magnanimous. He said that, okay, those who have spent fortune of their money should be refunded. They were angry, so the president carefully said that, okay, he was moving to another meeting. He didn't even wait to hear their grievances. All
right, let's actually link this particular story with the lead story on Nigerian Tribune right now. And it talks about the APC Convention, saying consensus arrangement faces threat. Now, writers here say governors move to pacify aspirants over Adamu, how Buhari adopted regional stakeholders micro-zoning, president meets with Tinubu, Akande, Okorocha, El-Rufai, others, and tells NAS caucus to avoid squabbling, and also unity list out today, says Senate President. And you can find details of that on page 2. Now, we also have more stories. Gunmen kidnap corps member, pregnant woman in Kogi State on page 26. Nigeria ranks first in Africa on tuberculosis. We also have Nolge Buhari APC to openly declare support for local government autonomy at party convention. Court OK's publication of contempt processes against AMCON chiefs. And we also have another story just below the pictorial that says PDP inaugurates zoning committee. Presidential aspirants embark on consensus dialogue. Our party has a tradition of zoning, says Ayu. Bala Anyim Tambuwal pick presidential form, and Peter Obi declares to run, says I'm contesting to secure Nigeria. Now, at the top there, you have reps, political appointees to steer clear of party primaries. You know, INEC to implement Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act, House says. And then we have Silva Irabo, Komolafe, one oil thieves, Kyari optimistic of containment. And then second Niger Bridge, now 91% complete, says a federal government. Now, let's continue with you know, what we're discussing about the APC convention. And you know, the unity list is coming out today, according to the Senate President.
You know, like I said, the problem actually is not with the chairmanship. Actually, like I said, that has been settled. But, you know, we have the two deputy chairmen, part of the NWC members, then the zonal chairman, organizing secretary, treasurer, woman leader, youth leader, secretary, I want to feel. So now, and even you remember during the last APC convention when the president endorsed Adams Oshimole, what he did was the governors met him. So he was the president. Yes, he's the leader of the party. So you have to give him that. So what is your interest? He said, no. I think at that time, he said, just Adams. I want Adam as chairman. I think he said, one assistant organizing secretary, one governor from the southeast begged him to intervene so that they should remove that guy. That was it. So they will go back and share the other seat among themselves. So the problem now actually is that of other positions, the deputy chairman. Like from the south, feelers from the presidency talking about Ken Namani, the former Senate president. From the north, there is a Senator Kyari. It's a senator from Borno State. And don't forget, Dogara, former speaker. It has been zoned to northeast. But there was that running battle between Borno and Bauchi because the former speaker, Yakubu Dogara, also picked the form. So there's that squabble. If we come here, like the organizing secretary, which is in the northwest, there are about 5 candidates, aspirants, pick forms. So that is it. So the unity list, you know, it's all about give and take. The governors will meet, and you know, they will share these positions. Then they will produce that list. But in a situation whereby that does not foreclose Mardia, for instance, if she wants to be deputy chairman, for instance, not. Whereas the party stakeholders speak Dashi, for instance, that does not foreclose it from contesting. Yeah, you can step down and be compensated. It's a ruling party after all. If you don't, just go to the poll. The consensus candidate will certainly emerge. Take PDP, for instance. I remember PDP did consensus. The party zoned the chairmanship to North Central. And the only candidate there was Yochayu. He won. But there was a unity list, even for the PDP. I remember, I think the woman leader, no, the chairperson, the vice chairman, Northeast. Mariam in the Chiroma, the wife of former Minister Adam Chiroma, was one of the aspirants. But they have zoned the thing to Northeast and specifically to Yobe, where there was one Bulama guy like this now. Yes, she contested. She was defeated. The same thing with the youth leader of the PDP, that young star from Kaduna. An elderly person from Kaduna State, somebody El Kudana, if I get it right, was equaling the rest. He refused to step down. He came to the convention. Election took place. That youngster defeated him landslide. So that's what will happen even tomorrow. there are people that will not be, like Fahimi now, actually maybe he's really angry, and he thought that maybe things are not going the way he wants. So for instance, he has candidates. He may not ask them to step down. He may control his delegates, some of them, not all of them. So if, for instance, now they will say, okay, we want from secretary, for instance, now. There are two people, basically. The governors, or is it the presidency, they said they want the former minister and senator, Yola Omishore from Oshun. And the other guy we are talking about, another CPC chieftain, somebody Oyedepo or something like that. So if a truth cannot be reached, the two will go to the poll. And what the majority of the governors speak, they will ask their delegates to vote for him, which will automatically defeat the other lone ranger.
Yes.
So that's how it's going to be. But principally, the leadership at the top has been settled. I don't think any of the governors will dare the president.
All right, now talking about settlements, despite courts, ruling or court judgment, we're seeing here that political appointees are to stay clear of party primaries, and INEC saying that they will implement, the clause, the controversial clause, Section 84, subsection 12.
Yes, INEC is right, because that was what the parliament passed. That was the same document that the president assented to. But suddenly, there was a court order. Ahia, is it about, I won't say about market.
Yes. He was
One Justice Evelyn from
Federal High Court
in
Ahia, yes,
granted that controversial, she wants to be like one judge in the FCT that granted that Aton Zerebe's ABN, you remember, to quash, to, what do you call it, to cancel the...
to annul
the junta of elections. Because, okay, if you look at what she did, she's a judge. She relied on about 6 or 5 sections of the Constitution. 66, 187, 132, 184, so that talk about why civil servants, public officers, should resign 30 days to election. But her lordship, forgot that Section 382, if I get it right, define public appointed officials. Appointed officials are not civil servants. Those 4 sections of the Constitution talk about civil servants at the federal, state, and local government. But there is a specific section of the Constitution that's about political appointees are not civil servants. So they are not covered by those provisions. And that is why the National Assembly made that law. You understand? That said, okay, the bar, if Dashi want to be a member of the House of Reps, maybe she wants to be Speaker by 2023, she should resign as special advisor to her governor and go and face, because politicking electionary is a serious matter. But you can't be here. We are seeing you always in government house. With security, you are trying to bulldoze. No. So that is it. And again, there are court pronouncements, appellate court pronouncements on the same issue. So what she did, and you know how they do that, how they did that, nobody knew that the case was filed. Nobody knew who even the respondent was. The main stakeholders, the National Assembly, were not joined in the suit. And suddenly, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who is one of the victims of that thing, just announced that a judgment has been delivered. And immediately said that he's going to delete Section 84, 12, and whatever. So, and I like what INEC is doing. I think it's good. Literally, it's good. We are not disenfranchising anybody. If you are not elected, take for instance, if this thing stands, there are so many ministers that will forgo their governorship ambitions because they want to use their offices to browbeat their state governors to give them the tickets.
And remain in power.
By the time, and you know, I don't want to mention names. One of the ministers, you know, who is deeply involved in this, when the National Assembly, you know, unanimously rejected President Buhari's request to delete that section, you know, it was unanimously rejected. And you know, it was a trap. They rejected it at the second reading, which means that the matter cannot be brought back to this assembly. So it was a strategic knockout. And one of the governors, one of the very powerful ministers who wants to be governor of his own state, they say he called his governor after that incident. He said, please, Your Excellency, I need your real assurance that you'll give me this ticket. The governor said, no, your honorable minister, you have nothing to worry about. They say after that meeting, he called the stakeholders back in his state. He's from the Northwest. They just laugh. They say, Governor XYZ giving you assurance. They say, resign today. You'll not even see him face to face. Yes, because most of the governors are afraid because these people are powerful men here in Abuja. So they will use it to browbeat, you know, to bulldoze their way. But I don't see, does she want to be House of Reps member? He wants to be Speaker. And she's now, let's say, Attorney General of the Federation, in charge of EFCC, ICPC, and what have you. Does she resign? Go and join politics. But no, she said, I know she wants to resign. She wants to use her office, get the ticket, campaign until 30 days to election.
It's just like a safe haven.
Yeah, eating your cake and having it.
Yeah, that is it. That is it.
All right, now let's take one more story before we move on to the next paper. Talking about, yesterday was World Tuberculosis Day, and right now we're seeing that Nigeria is ranking first in Africa on tuberculosis.
Then that's a very bad story, because we thought that we are done with the issue of tuberculosis. Because of, I think in the past, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, you know, if you go to even private hospitals, I think the treatment was free. I don't know whether it is still free now.
It was free, and there have been a lot of advocacy every 24th of March.
Exactly.
You know, even before then, I think one of the ailments or medical conditions that, you know, have received a lot of advocacy over the years, let's say 3, 4, 5 years backwards, I think it's tuberculosis, but we're still ranking #1 in Africa. That's kind of surprising, don't you think?
So what's the problem? Maybe one, the advocacy, I don't think the advocacy is still ongoing.
It is ongoing.
But not with the efficacy it had in the past. And maybe other ailments like hepatitis came, and they overtook maybe the civil society and NGOs, you know, shifted their. It's something that certainly we need to worry about, because one is a communicable disease.
It is.
Yeah, and you know what that means, you know. It's a communicable disease. And I think the last time, we did a story sometimes, before you have to take drugs consecutively for about 6 months, but I think they reduced it to about 4 or 3. So you see how difficult it is. And you have to be in a medical facility where the drugs will be administered consecutively. If you miss one dose, the whole thing, you go back to square one. So you see how difficult it is. That's why you hardly give the drugs to people that are at home, because very few people will be that consistent. So that's the problem. I think maybe that's the major problem. Maybe what the health authorities should do now is maybe, just like you don't need to take the drugs for 6 months straight, they reduce it to about 4 months or 3 months plus. Maybe they should reduce it more, so that, you know, in a typical urban slum, for instance, administration, where do you even keep it?
That would do with a lot of medical research. They have to go back to the table and see
I
what
said
they
maybe
can do.
that's one way of. And another thing I remember at that time was they were saying that even the is it the virus is becoming resistant to the drugs we had at that time, which was very difficult to even tackle, particularly if you are on drugs and something happened that you have to go back to square one. So you know the virus will get some resistance or immunity, and it will be immune from the drugs. I think maybe advocacy. We have to go back to the drawing board, particularly at the local level, at the urban centers. You understand our hygiene, which is still a problem. If you go to urban centers, you see refuse. I see we have to revert back to what we used to have when we were kids. In those days in Hausa, we call it Dubagari. Every Saturday, the cities will be locked down. Every family must come out and clean your backyard, clean your drainages and what have you. At the villages, health officials, house to house, checking the convenience, how to wear and what have you. Maybe the way things are happening, maybe we have to revert back to that. Because even Abuja is dirty.
All right. Let's move away from that paper. Let's take this one. The Nation will be our first stop. And it seems APC Convention is taking the front pages of all the dailies in Nigeria. The lead story here on The Nation says why we chose consensus option by APC. There are two riders attached to this story. The first rider says the party to abide by Electoral Act, and the president solicits unity among party stakeholders. And we have another story that this seems like a business story. It says $3.27 billion crude oil stolen in 14 months. And CDS Irabo, we will go after thieves and sponsors. That story is, it started on the front page. You can continue reading on page 4. And the lead story, as I forgot, you can read further on, okay, there's no specified page here, but you can read further to get more details. And then we have another story, race for PDP ticket. All right, this one said, Saraki Tambuwal Muhammad meet Atiku, Aim orders unlikely consensus. And then Obi joins race. More aspirants pick nomination form. That story is on page 29. And there's another story, section 84, subsection 12 remains part of Electoral Act. All right, you want to know who's making the statement. Okay, the reps are actually making the statement. Page 29 has more details. And then Ibrahim ordered to publish court records against AMCOM ND. Okay, that story is on page 30 of the Nation's newspaper this morning, and pretty much what we have in front of the Nation's newspaper. And of course, this has to do with AMCON, and of course, there's a story behind this, and there's a publication records that has to be, out there against AMCON ND, and he has been given a go-ahead to publish the court records against the AMCON ND. What's your take on this?
You have to look back. It's Obasanjo's privatization exercise. And yes, if you look at the deregulation of the telecom sector, it's a good story, success story. But there are some other privatization exercise that's I saw. One of it is the properties bought by Jimo Ibrahim. Jimo Ibrahim bought Nikon. If you go to Central area now, he just bought, I think Nikon, a Meridian Hotel, what they call the Nikon, and he just misappropriated everything. He borrowed money from the banks. He couldn't pay. AMCOM will certainly come after him. remember. So he ran to court. Most of this property were confiscated by AMCON. So now he took the battle to go to the, if you look at the Nikon insurance headquarters. Plus it's deserted. Because
It's a shadow of itself.
yeah, exactly. It's deserted because for a very long time, you know, there are businesses there, but the man could not even maintain. There was a time I remember it was on the papers. He couldn't pay the people disposing refuse. A refuse bill piled up for almost a week.
Wow.
So the place stink. NEPA at that time came, unpaid bills, cut off, to use that word, the light. So you can't use the elevators. So the place has been deserted before it was even taken over by INEC, by AMCO. So I think what the man did was just he went to court. And he took the matter to court, and that explains all this court drama or whatever. But you won't succeed. You can't borrow more money, which is shareholders' money, buy stuff, misuse the stuff for you. He was into elections, he was into this, he was into all manner of, you remember he floated an airline? He bought Nigerian Airways, not the airways per se, because the property of the airways in J-Borg, Paris, London, and what have you. That was it. And he grounded it immediately. So now the matter is before the court. And AMCON has to step in. AMCON is really helping us. If Mardia borrow 1 million to do business, whereas actually she wants to go to the House of Reps.
With the money.
And what happened, you know, she doesn't have the right godfather. Her constituents chop the money.
Mismanagement happens. Yes. You know, sometimes we get money, we take loans from different places, and then if you don't know how to manage this money, you just squander them.
If you check Daily Trust today, there is about 6 pages adverts. Delinquent debtors of First Bank. Names have been published. I don't know whether Mordia's name is.
Probably you have to get a copy of Daily Trust to know if my name is there. You can just
All right,
check.
there's this particular story on the front page of The Nation, just before we move to the next paper, and it talks about why police pay rise is delayed by IG. Now, there's been a lot of talk, you know, about, increasing salaries for police over the years and everything, and then we're seeing them involved in some vices. I don't even want to mention names, you know, but, you know, a lot of people seem to think it's because they're not paid enough, and that's why they're lackadaisical when it comes to, you know, securing the nation as well.
I don't want to buy that. I'm not an advocate of that school of thought. Of police are corrupt because of poor pay. Do Nigerian police earn less than their counterparts in Chad, Cameroon, Niger, Benin? No. Go to Niger Republic. You know, they call the police in Hausa Iko, meaning power. They don't stay by the roadside. They stay under the shade. You, even if you are in Nigeria, you park, take your papers to them. If you like, pass that checkpoint. If you travel between now and Kaduna, you meet the next checkpoint, they will turn you back. I think it's attitudes and our poor recruitment process. It is no longer a secret. You all know that you have to pay money to get recruited. So when I graduate for long years without a job, I remember this is even long ago. In this office, my colleague who is from Jos, he's still here. He received a call from a friend of his from Jos. They graduated together. He said that he applied to the police to be a chaplain.
Wow.
The Muslim chaplain, imam. But do you know what he was saying? I remember I put him on He said that, okay, he was asked to pay certain amount. So he's calling on his friends, colleagues, to help him raise that amount. He was to be hired as a chaplain.
That's the job racketeering we're talking about, because he's not even sure if he was going to
What
get
I'm
the job.
saying here, he should be there to, he will be the one to guide the moral compass. He's an imam. And you have to bribe his way into that one. So that is it. So, and again, look at the budget. Yes, they are poorly funded. That's a fact. But if you compare what a policeman, if you come out from Kaduna Police College today, and what do they call it, as a recruit, your salary is equal to that of a graduate employed in a federal ministry. I'm not talking about the grade A ministries. Yes, how much does a graduate collect if you are Minister of Information, Minister of Commerce? I'm not talking about CBN and what have you. It's nothing to write home about. So, but the issue is simple. The recruitment process, you have to pay in to get recruited. We don't look at, that's why even in criminals are being recruited. There are many instances whereby criminals are arrested while undergoing police training. Nobody is doing background check. That is used to. For instance, Mardia is, let's say, from Abuja or from Sokoto or from Kogi and whatever you. They have to take their men to all these places to check what is your moral. Do you have any past history that we think maybe it will not be in congruent with your current, what you are applying for? Nobody is doing that. And the police pay rise, has become political. They have brought the issue now because we are on the eve of elections. You remember on the eve of 2019 elections, President Buhari promised. You see, there were cops on it, were very happy. Nothing was done. But now maybe this time around they may be serious. I know they always increase police salary on the eve of elections. I don't know whether maybe they will use them to influence the outcome of the elections or not. We hope that this increment happens, because I remember at that time we were trying to do a story. We went round the clock. Is there any increment? The force headquarters refused to talk. But there was no increment. That was before 2019 election. And now on the eve of 2023 elections, they were talking about salary increment again. So it has become a routine.
Yes, definitely. All right, thank you so much. This is the much we can take on a newspaper review today. Thank you so much, Mr.
Yeah, most
Nuruddin,
welcome.
for sharing your thoughts on some of these stories. So that was editor 21st Century Chronicles Nuruddin Abdullah, sharing his take on these stories. With that, we'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, it'll be time for our first discussion. Do stay with us.
When a situation where you find that a person look at the same
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
Because I have said that